And I am live. Hi, my name is Tyriece Simon, and this is the UFC Vegas 47 main event recap reaction. How you guys doing? How you guys doing? Hope you guys are doing fine. I see Flad's already sending flex emoji. Appreciate that, brother. Um, how you guys doing, man? It's been a minute. It's been a minute. I was not going to do a I was going to do a recap tomorrow. I would do every Sunday, but two things happened. One, I've been working on trying to fix my computer this whole entire day. Finally got it fixed this evening, and then I had to get some work done, which I'm also behind on that. So that's one of the reasons. And two, I didn't really see anything. I really didn't see much of the event. Kind of forgot that it came on this early. Usually, I'm used to main card starting at 10 o'clock. So this one, it caught me by surprise how early it was. Which normally I wouldn't complain about it at all. I love early events. Earlier the better. I live on the East Coast. But this one did sneak by on me a little bit, so I apologize for that. But nonetheless, I did see the main event. I did see the main event. I did see Sean Strickland versus uh Jack Hermanson. I did see that, and I'm going to give you my overall thoughts on it. What does this mean for the middleweight division? Uh, Especially since we have this upcoming Saturday, next Saturday, we have middleweight title fight between Israel Adesanya and Robert Whitaker too, the rematch, which I'm looking very forward to. Um, so that's interesting. That's very interesting. But thank you guys for either watching this, who's gonna watch it live, or watching on VOD. Appreciate you. Please leave a like. Please, I greatly appreciate that. If you haven't subscribed already, please subscribe. I appreciate that as well. And also leave a comment. Tell me what you think overall. What you think of the main event, the show itself. Did I miss anything? Should I go back and watch some things? What you think about what I say? Whether negative or positive, I always appreciate that kind of feedback. Lets me know what you guys are thinking and get different perspectives on some things too. Um, so yeah, let me just jump right into it. Okay, so the main event saw Sean Strickland versus Jack Hermanson. I think they are both ranked number 6 and seven respectively. Jack Hermanson is ranked number 6. Sean Strickland number 7. Um, Sean Strickland is on this rise. He's getting more and more publicity. People are now following him and are interested in seeing what he's doing. Um, and he's one of those middleweights that kind of grind a little bit early on and was in the middle of the pack, and now he's finally finding his way. I believe his last loss was against Ezekiel Dos Santos back in May 12th, 2018. That was the Nunes versus Pennington card, UFC 224, when he lost by knockout. Um, he had some rough goes in the. Was he a middleweight then? Let me see. I don't think he was a middleweight. He was a welterweight. Yes, he was a welterweight. I forgot. He was a welterweight. He was a welterweight against Ezekiel Dos Santos. I thought Ezekiel Dos Santos at middleweight sounded weird to me. But yes, he was a welterweight, and then he decided to go up in weight. Beats Jack Marshman, beats Nordine Taleb. Well, no, Nordine Taleb was also welterweight, but Brendan Allen was the big one that would really blew people away. Him bringing Brendan Allen, who also fought on the same card. See, he beat Sam Alvey as well. Um, you know, and then Sean Strickland started to have this rise from being somebody that people really slept on and really didn't know to now being somebody that is could be ranked number 6 in the middleweight division, uh, and has beginning to become a bigger name. People are trying to notice him a little bit more. People are trying to talk about him, especially in the media circle. So that is a story to be. That's a incredible story to see somebody that has, you know, early on had some struggles, and now he's starting to find his groove in a different weight class. And he's so far so good. He seemed to be, pretty much ahead of the pack a little bit too. Um, And that's when we get to Jack Hermanson, where Jack Hermanson, I think he's at this crossroads in his career, where at one point we're looking at Jack Hermanson as probably being the next person, somebody that could be a possible title contender. To now, after this loss, which spoiler, Sean Strickland beats Jack Hermanson by split decision. Even though I thought it should have been a unanimous decision, honestly, I don't see how you gave Jack Hermanson a round really. But Jack Hermanson is at a point in his career now where he's had a couple of big setback losses now. Um, you know, he is he's beaten. His last win was against Edmund Shabazian, but Edmund Shabazian is one of those guys where he's somebody that's still trying to find his way as well in the middleweight division. Had a lot of promise early on, and then took a tough loss against Derek Brunson. And then he's been kind of on the downhill a little bit too. He can probably still get back there. He's still young enough to do it, but he's definitely somebody that has to kind of work his way out of that. But before that, he lost to Marvin Vettori, beat Kevin Gastelum, but it was a heel hook that beat Kevin Gastelum. Lost to Jared Cannonier, and his last string of wins was against Jacare Souza back in 2019. David Branch before that, and then Jared Rochard and Talis Lettis. So those were his last string of wins. And Jack Hermanson's kind of in this weird spot now where he's going to go back down the rankings, and now he's going to have to fight for his position and keep his position in order to move forward. This fight kind of spoiler kind of went how I kind of thought it was going to go. I thought Sean Strickland had good enough defense. His grappling defense was good enough. But I also thought that the pressure of Sean Strickland and the pace, what my pace is, the dude doesn't get tired. I've seen him in a couple of fights now. The Uriah Hall one specifically was where he didn't look like he was tired at all. He could go for 5 more rounds after the 5 rounds. And with a guy like that against a guy like Jack Hermanson, who really relies on going to the ground. Like his bread and butter is taking you down to the ground and dominating you. And when I think you don't have that, that's where he struggles a little bit. And he struggled with this fight. I thought that Sean Strickland's jab really was the key factor. I thought Sean Strickland also did a great job of moving out of the way of strikes as well. I think Sean Strickland has probably one of the most underrated defenses in that division, or maybe in the UFC, where Sean Strickland is very, very good at moving his head out the way at certain moments. Very good at the way of not taking full kicks flush on. He kind of moves away from the kick as he did with Jack Hermanson. Jack Hermanson would throw the body kick, but he's moving just away from the body kick, so I don't really get the full brunt of it. The leg kicks were a thing, but you also see Jack Hermanson. Sean Strickland pick his foot up, as well to not take the leg kick. So he's constantly working on his defense while he's standing in front of you, which is incredible to see. Where there's not a lot of footwork movement. There's not a lot of circling the cage or like what other fighters would do. He's in your face, but he's in your face in a way where he's doing just enough to not take the full brunt of anything, to where it makes it really, really hard for you to really land anything flush or really give him any damage. While he's popping with a jab constantly, looking to open things up to where he can go with a 1-2. He goes to the body as well to end this combination. So very, 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 very technical, very fundamental, but also very smart too. The name of the game is to hit and not get hit. And he perfects that. He does a really good job of doing that. So, and yeah, I thought it was going to be tough for Jack Hermanson, and it was. The jab, the stand-up was a little bit too much for Jack Hermanson. He did land some good leg kicks, tried to land some good body kicks, but really nothing really had that much damage. Flathead Politics says, who's going to show, Sean is more aggressive with his sparring partners than he was with Jack tonight. Good win, though. Yeah, it's a fight where A lot's on the line. He wins. He becomes the sixth ranked guy in the middleweight division. You have a fight that's going to be next Saturday against Israel Adesanya and Rob Whittaker, a fight where, I'm going to talk about that in a second, where after that fight, if Israel Adesanya was to win, who really is next? There's not a whole lot of contenders in that middleweight division, which again we'll talk about in a second. But I could imagine the pressure, extra pressure, and also the spotlight was on Sean Strickland a lot in this fight, more than ever before. I think Sean Strickland, the last one, it was more on Uriah Hall. This time around, it was on Sean Strickland and just the media run that he's been on. And Sean Strickland, man, he is somebody that is becoming popular. Somebody that people wants to talk about. Some people are interested in now. He's riding the momentum. So there's a lot more eyeballs, a lot more consequences if you were to fail. And Jack Hermanson, to his credit, Jack Hermanson does a great job of he doesn't get flustered. He'll still run the course. He'll still he's willing to stand with you, but it's just not enough, and it's just not as good as Sean Strickland. And his bread and butter and what he thrives on is taking you down and dominating you, which he wasn't able to do against Sean Strickland. So it pretty much was just Sean Strickland walking him down with a jab and popping with a jab and trying to land combination when he decided to. Where Jack Hermanson is trying to find his way. He's on the feet, but he doesn't want to really be there, and he's kind of being forced to play that game. So it went all the way in Sean Strickland's favor. So Sean is next. I don't think so. I don't think Sean Strickland's next. And this. Now we get to the aftermath of that, right? Sean Strickland wins by split decision again. I thought he was unanimous decision. And now what's next for Sean Strickland? I don't know how you can give him a title shot after this performance. I think he's gonna have to do a lot more or have another fight to really gain that momentum to be a title challenger. I think now we get to the middleweight division part. Jack Hermanson is gonna have to go back down the card and fight somebody below him. But now we get to the crux of this is really the state of the middleweight division, and this next Saturday is going to be a very interesting fight because Robert Whittaker versus Israel Adesanya is the best middleweight fight you can make right now at this moment with who is ranked on the card. Right, so Robert Whittaker's on a tear. He's seen that he reinvented himself a little bit. So he got that hunger in himself again. If you remember the last fight with Israel Adesanya, there was a lot going on. It was the injuries. It was the layoffs. It was Israel Adesanya is rising. He has this streak, this momentum going, and it seems like Robert Whittaker, the stress, the outside issues that may be happening in his personal life, all that compounding with it being in his hometown, seemed like it was a lot going on with Robert Whittaker. And also at that time, it seemed like Robert Whittaker was it was the fire that was in Robert Whittaker was not there, and that was noticeable. Just his demeanor, how he looked, how he carried himself. It didn't seem like that was there. This time around, it does feel different. It does feel like a different Robert Whittaker. It seems like Robert Whittaker that's game. It seems like Robert Whittaker that is hungry. Somebody that is cerebral, that is thinking methodically in his fights. Flat Politics says he wasn't that impressive to me tonight, but judging by the way he's being promoted and propped up by the UFC, he might be next in line to fight Stylebender. See, I don't think so. And here's why. The win like this tonight for Sean Strickland doesn't really propel you to fight Israel Adesanya next, right? I think with Sean Strickland, he may get somebody within the top 5, obviously because he's ranked number 6, but sometimes number 6 you gotta go down. He may get somebody like the winner or the loser of Darren Till versus Derek Brunson, right? But I don't see him fighting anybody within the fighting a title challenger. it's not a performance that no, sorry, it's Jared Cannonier and Derek Brunson. Sorry, I'm all over the place there. I can see him finding the winner or the loser of that. But I don't see that for Sean Strickland yet. You know, the the thing about the thing about the middleweight division is the the title fight that we're gonna get on Saturday is the best fight you can make at this moment. It's the best fight you can make at this moment, and I can't call who's gonna win that fight right now. I'm gonna think about it. I'm gonna try to do a prediction show, try to release for you guys before Saturday, but I can't call it. Like right off the top of my head, I can't call it. My heart says Rob Whittaker wins the fight. My gut says, and my brain says that Israel Adesanya is gonna do it again. But Robert Whittaker, man, there's something about how he's been lately that it makes me think he could pull it off, and I think he has the ability to. He has the technical ability, he has the drive, he has the mental aspect to put up a great game plan to beat Israel Adesanya. Especially you look at the John Blachowicz fight. And I think Robert Whittaker will try to mix up his grappling with his striking and make it a little bit more challenging for Israel Adesanya to try to figure him out. Flat Pause says Izzy has it. Robert's going to try and wrestle, and Izzy will be ready for it. The thing about it is, Izzy could try to be ready for it. However, it depends on how Robert Whittaker sets it all up, right? Robert Whittaker is very cerebral in how he approaches his fights. He's very methodical, and he's somebody that I can imagine game plans what he's going to do and has a plan A, plan B, plan C of what can happen, right? And especially, I think something you should look out for, just off the top of my head, is that high kick. That high kick that Robert Whittaker likes to throw. I think that's something that you should note and put in the back of your mind, especially with Israel Adesanya, who's somebody that doesn't really put his hands up. He likes to sway back a little bit too. So I've always thought that combination there, if Robert Whittaker could put up a combination of jab and then ended up with a jab cross and then ended up with a high kick, or I think he's done this before where he'll just throw a jab or a straight, and then with the same side of his body, with let's say if he's doing a right jab, a right cross, or a right straight, he'll use a right high kick to end it off. Like, he's very, very good at certain things like that. So those are things where I'm like, Israel Adesanya, he doesn't like to use his hands and to block. He likes to sway back a little bit, likes to be in the matrix, where you're going against a guy that tries to think 3 steps ahead sometimes. I think that could be something interesting. Also, you say Israel Adesanya can handle the wrestling. That's something. So Rob said that Izzy loss is the key to win wrestling. He's not wrong. The best way to beat Israel Adesanya is not to stand with him and strike with him. The best way to beat him is to pressure him and to make it a grueling fight, right? It's to make it a grueling fight, and it's to keep Israel Adesanya in a dominant position, ground him a little bit, so that it's not Israel Adesanya throwing leg kicks just to open you up to make a mistake, right? That's what Israel Adesanya likes to do. He likes to open you up, make you make mistakes. He likes to counter. Well, to prevent him from throwing kicks, to prevent him from creating space and be able to do what he wants, and to wait for you to come in to a counter, is to corral the space, technically, and to make it a grueling fight. Whether that is wrestling, whether that is grappling against the cage, whether that is dirty boxing, like whatever you have to do, the thing that to beat Israel Adesanya is to get on the inside and make it a grueling fight, which is what John Blachowicz did. John Blachowicz was able to stand on the feet with Israel Adesanya, also because he has a power aspect of it too. But he was able to stand on the feet with Israel Adesanya and keep moving forward and get in the face of Adesanya, to where, yes, he was able to take him down in the later rounds, to where Israel Adesanya then, now he's a little bit, now all that energy, all that footwork, all that movement, now it does tire you out a little bit. Now you are kind of have to grapple off your to grapple off your back and try to get up and potentially get taken back down again. Now you have to work a little bit. Now you have to all that fast twitching movement and stuff like that. It adds up to where it is easier to take you down a little bit more. And maybe you may not do anything like a submission on the ground against Israel Adesanya. You may not be able to get a TKO off the ground out of Adesanya, but it does add up to points. And I think that's like ultimately you have to go in a game plan with Israel Adesanya that you're not going to knock him out, that you may have to win on points. And the way I win on points is to add things up, like taking them down, like mixing and striking, like going with leg kicks. And it is to chip away at Israel Adesanya to where you can look for those takedown exchanges. The later the fight goes, the better it ends up for Rob Whittaker. If the fight ends early, it's most likely the Israel Adesanya show. This is my off my brain. I think Rob Whittaker's best chance is to wait on later round, and it is to tire out Israel Adesanya, and it is to gradually tire Israel Adesanya out to where he's able to showcase more dominance and win on points that way. That's my overall just quick thinking about the fight. And I think Rob Whittaker has the tools to make it a challenge because he can wrestle, he can grab, he can wrestle, he can strike with you. He has cardio. We've seen that. He has grit. We've seen that. He is somebody that is methodical. We've seen that. He has all the intangibles, more so than anybody in the middleweight division right now, to give Israel Adesanya the problem. And that's where I'm glad you brought this up, because now it brings me back to my point with the middleweight division is that after this, if Rob Whittaker does not beat Israel Adesanya, who really is next for Israel Adesanya? And when you look at this middleweight division, there's not really a clear-cut contender that I think poses a dangerous challenge for Israel Adesanya, right? We have, on the same card, we have Derek Brunson versus Jared Cannonier, right? We know that Derek Brunson and Israel Adesanya has fought before. No disrespect to Blonde Brunson. I don't really necessarily want to think, I think the outcome changes, but who knows? Who knows, right? I think Israel Adesanya striking is better than Derek Brunson. And I think Derek Brunson's chance in that fight will be to take him down to the ground. And unlike Rob Whittaker, I think Derek Brunson's striking is not up to par with Rob Whittaker. I think that's where we get the struggle, and I think that's where we get the same result. Kind of like, Vettori and Israel Adesanya, we're going to get a 5-round fight where, it's not going to be the most spectacular fight. If Derek Brunson's going into the mindset that he's going to try to be cautious, to try to grapple the whole entire time. Flathead Politics also says Usman's manager is trying to get Usman to fight Izzy also, even though they said they would never fight each other. I don't think they will. I think Usman is going to stay at welterweight. He has a lot more fights there than Israel Adesanya does, right? Usman has the Leon Edwards fight. He has the Kazmat Chimaev fight. He has the Vicente Luque fight or Belal Muhammad fight. He has a lot of fights where he has potentially Dustin Poirier. He has that fight. There are lightweights that could go up to welterweight and fight Usman. Like there are fights there for Usman to where, he can stick around there. Usman's a draw himself. Usman is a draw himself, so like he don't really need to go to middleweight to fight Israel Adesanya. I think Israel Adesanya needs opponents more than Usman does. When you look at the middleweight division, again, you have Sean Strickland that won tonight, but let's call it the mind-blowing performance you would think. Sean Strickland even say that. But Israel Adesanya beating Rob Whittaker already. He beat Marvin Vettori. He's beating Derek Brunson. He's beating Paulo Costa. The Darren Till's a person that, we're still trying to see him come back. He's beating the Brad Tavares. He's beating the Kevin Gastelum. Uriah Hall, somebody that, again, is trying to find his way. These, like Israel Adesanya, we look at the rankings, he's beating, Rob Whittaker, Marvin Vettori, Derek Brunson, Paulo Costa, Kevin Gastelum, Brad Tavares. He's being 6 of the guys within the top 15. You got Nasruddin Imanov that's going to be coming up in the rankings. But he has to have to fight his way there. Sean Strickland, he's going to have to fight his way there. Jack Kaminsky's going to go down in the card. Darren Till is somebody that is trying to get healthy and trying to fight again. There's not a lot of guys within the middleweight division for Israel Adesanya to fight, right? So it's almost, and Jared Cannonier is a guy where it would have been interesting to see Jared Cannonier fight, and that mystique of Jared Cannonier would be there if Jared Cannonier would have beat Rob Whittaker, but he didn't. So now we're kind of seeing what Jared Cannonier does against Derek Brunson, and I'm gonna assume he had to take another fight after that, just to get his name to pop. Derek Brunson, if he beats Jared Cannonier, he's the guy that has the most like wins and the most hype behind it that can make that fight a reality, I think. But realistically, I don't know how their version of Derek Brunson does against Israel Adesanya. It could be an amazing fight. It could prove me wrong in all aspects, but I don't know. And I think fans who remember, because it wasn't that long ago, fans who remember Derek Brunson versus Israel Adesanya, I don't know if they'll buy into it too. I think that's also the problem. Well, if you're going to have Derek Brunson be the main event of against Israel Adesanya, so it's also in the back of their mind is Derek Brunson, who's also older, who's also maybe on a winning streak, but we've seen him get hurt, get dropped by Israel Adesanya. You're going to have to convince fans, and Derek Brunson going to have to do his best to convince fans that it's going to be worth the price of admission, because, again, price went up, and, I'd imagine fans are not going to be too keen or intrigued on that. So, now we're finding ourselves in a position where the middleweight division, outside of Derek Brunson, possibly, is very dry for Israel Adesanya if he was to win. And you have the Usman fight that his manager wants to do, but Usman doesn't need that. He has a bunch of contenders he could fight, especially lightweights like Dustin Poirier, who, if he comes in and he blows doors down, that's somebody that's the big fight for him. There's a bunch of avenues where, Kamaru Usman can still have big fights. Izzy will destroy Brunson, I think. Mediocre will be best. And that's the thing. Especially with, again, the price point for the UFC reviews, it does make it a little bit hard to try to sell you on Derek Brunson versus Israel Adesanya, unless, Derek Brunson goes out there and starches Jared Cannonier in impressive fashion, and it just goes on the mic and says, "Hey, I want Israel Adesanya next. I want the rematch. Let's do it." Or if Rob Whittaker wins, and then you get the trilogy fight against Israel Adesanya, which that would be big and humongous. Those are really the two options for Israel Adesanya. Outside of that, there's not a lot of options, and it gets dicey. It gets dicey because will Israel Adesanya go back to 205? Like that. That's the thing where we've seen it once. Will we see it again? Especially when we see the weights and the heights and the power, and it gets dicey. It gets dicey. So I don't know. But this fight, going back to the original points and the original reaction, this fight against Sean Strickland and Jack Hermanson goes to highlight, yes, there are guys, and it's good for Sean Strickland that the rise that he's on and the trajectory that he's on, but there's not a lot of fights in that middleweight division for the champion, the current champion. And this next Saturday is going to be very, very interesting, because we have maybe one fight less for Israel Adesanya, and then we're going to be wondering what the hell is next for Israel Adesanya. Who can fight him next, and who can be not only fight him next, but also be entertaining and make you want to see that fight and pay the $80 to see him. Flat Politics says Usman is hinting at retiring soon. I think Usman's manager was looking at the money aspect of that fight. Yes, I think Usman can potentially be retiring soon. I think, though, Sean called out Holland this week, but Holland's in welterweight, so that's not really even a discussion right now. Holland will be fighting at welterweight soon. He's fighting welterweight soon. Usman is hinting at retiring soon. I think Usman's manager was looking at the money aspect of the fight. Yeah, I think so too. I think Usman, he has other things he could be doing. I see we see some commentary for Khabib's promotion the other day. I didn't think it was too bad. Usman has done well for himself. I don't think he's going to be retiring too soon, though. I think it may be another year or two. another year or two, I think, before we see Usman hang it up. I yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I used to think Usman would retire soon, but then I got to thinking about the fights that he could have, and the money that I think that's still out there. And the more I think about it, the more I'm like, I don't know. I think Usman has a couple more fights in them left to complete, and he can ride out to the sunset. But he has Leon Edwards, he has Kazmat Chimaev. That would be huge if he does. If Kazmat Chimaev continues to go on his rise, and he fights Kazmat Chimaev, that would be huge. And yeah, he's that's a big fight. That's a very big fight. You have that fight. You have Leon Edwards. You have Vicente Luque. If Vicente Luque was to beat Bilal Muhammad, then you got that fight where Vicente Luque is the next guy of Brazil, and you can do that. How big that fight could be. There's some fights. Dustin Poirier, if he goes up the weight and starts doing stuff, then you have him. Like there's some fights where Usman, I could see him being intrigued and not going up to middleweight because there's so many. There's some money fights there for him. There's some good fights for him and some good quality money fights for him too, especially Kazmat Chimaev. That's the one where if they were to pull that off, that would be big. That would be big. That I think that will be the level. That'll be the closest we'll get to a. I don't want to say a Khabib and Conor fight, but it's close to that. Like that could do close to a mil, I think. Just the power, just the star power of Kazmat Chimaev, and I think about Usman and where he's at right now. I think that's the closest we'll get to that outside of Conor. That could be probably the biggest pay-per-view the UFC could put on. Kazmat Chimaev is huge. He is a huge draw. He's a huge draw. And Usman versus Kazmat Chimaev will be a big. But again, we're talking about Usman. Usman has so many matchups. Again, middleweight division, there's not a lot not out there for Izzy Adesanya outside or Whitaker. And he beats Rob Whitaker. All that's left is Derek Brunson. If he beats Derek Brunson, then we're getting to a territory where there's not a lot of legit contenders for Izzy Adesanya. I think that's where, that's when we got to start thinking, okay, he's dominant, he's doing, and then also performances too. It's not like Izzy Adesanya is blowing away these performances lately. So what's really next? So I don't know. It's just watching the main event got me to thinking how, the skill level between Izzy Adesanya and then the rest, and Rob Whitaker and the rest, you can see it, and you wonder what's next after the next Saturday, which I can't wait to see. But let me know what you guys think. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section. Please leave a like and tell me, in the comment section, whether you think Izzy Adesanya has a bunch of fights in the middleweight. Tell me what you think. If after Derek Brunson or after Jared Cannonier, who can you see coming up next fighting middleweight for the title? Does Izzy Adesanya need to go up and wait to go to a 205? What do you think is next for the middleweight division? What do you think of the state of the middleweight division is? Touch on Jorge fight before you shut it down. Jorge fight. The Jorge fight. The Covington fight. I mean, here's my thing, right? And I ask you guys that's watching. Do we really think, and respectfully, Jorge Masvidal is a mismatch in this fight. Jorge Masvidal versus Covington, I think, is a mismatch. And it's a mismatch for Jorge Masvidal. Well, Colby Covington is a welterweight. Colby Covington has the wrestling aspect. Covington has the cardio aspect. Covington versus Jorge Masvidal, on paper, it's brother versus brother, or teammate versus teammate, and blood feud and everything like that, blood rivalry. But when you look at this fight on paper, this fight is it's leaning heavily in Covington's favor. And if you were a betting person, I don't, you bet what you want to bet, you pay if you pay, you know how it goes. But if you see Covington he's a slight underdog, I would jump on it immediately. It is going to it Covington, I think, presents a bunch of problems for Jorge Masvidal, and it's I think Jorge Masvidal taking this fight. I think one, it's the fight he had to take. He wants to fight, for a title again. He also wants to make some money. I think Covington versus Jorge Masvidal does some business for him. But long term, I think it's a bad fight. I think Covington goes out there and absolutely dominates him. I think I think Jorge Masvidal loses either by unanimous decision or he gets finished in later rounds. And I think Jorge Masvidal's star power is going to drop after this fight. I do. I do. I personally, maybe Jorge Masvidal waiting for the Conor McGregor fight. Maybe Jorge Masvidal trying to do Dustin Poirier too. I mean, not Dustin Poirier, Nate Diaz too. You know, Leon Edwards. Leon Edwards is somebody that it is. The thing about Leon Edwards is questionable is just the cardio aspect. Leon Edwards can grapple. Leon Edwards can strike, but I think Leon Edwards, how does his cardio hang, and how does that, there's that question where fans could probably believe in and buy into. I don't necessarily buy into it, but fans could buy into, how Leon Edwards cardio holds up. But you're going against a guy, this Colby Covington, that has the cardio aspect, has the wrestling aspect, has the striking aspect to make it a challenge for you. And also has the grit and determination and the psychological warfare to make it challenging for you. It's tough. It's tough. So yeah, it's gonna be if you're a Jorge Masvidal fan, again, I could change my mind. I could think back on this and want to do a prediction show for that. I mean, have a whole different outcome. And it's not disrespectful for Jorge Masvidal. Jorge Masvidal is a great fighter, has a great career. You could call him a legend. I think Colby Covington presents a bunch of problems for Jorge Masvidal, where I think you're gonna see the decline. You're gonna see the decline of that star power a little bit. It says if Jorge loses, his image will be severely tarnished. Yes, and it depends on how he loses to it. If Jorge Masvidal goes on there and he loses by split decision, it's a grueling fight. No, I don't think it's gonna hurt his image. But in the mindset, in my mind, what's gonna happen? I think it's gonna be a complete domination. I think yes, that severely tarnishes his image. I think this fight is a must win for Jorge Masvidal more than Colby Covington. I think Colby Covington can bounce back off of this if he was to lose to Masvidal by, let's say, a knockout. I think Colby Covington, his act, his persona, I think he can still bounce back from that. Jorge Masvidal with the BMF belt, and just looking at where he's at in his career right now, and in the welterweight division at that, him losing is very, very big because now you're telling Jorge Masvidal to potentially fight guys like a Kazmat Chimaev, like a Vicente Luque, like a Bilal Muhammad, like these other guys where I think Colby Covington's a welterweight. Colby Covington can fight those guys and make it challenging for them. Jorge Masvidal, a lightweight going to welterweight, somebody that is going to have to fight guys like Vicente Luque, Leon, Kazmat Chimaev, these bigger guys. It's going to give him a lot of problems. And yeah, I think Colby Covington's going to beat Jorge Masvidal, and yeah, we're gonna see a little bit of the shine go for Jorge Masvidal, but doesn't take anything away from him. So I'll do a prediction show for that and get my no, the BMF belt is not on the line. It's not. But I'm saying the image of the BMF belt and him being the champion, I think that image goes away. I think with the Kamaru Usman fight, Kamaru Usman's the champion. He's regarded as one of the best welterweights of all time. You have that image in the back of your mind where Jorge Masvidal is fighting a guy that is regarded as one of the best welterweights we've ever seen. Jorge Masvidal loses to Colby Covington. It's a different story. A guy's not a champion. A guy that is talked a lot of shit, for my language, and he's fighting against a guy that is a blood feud, a serious rivalry. And I think what Colby Covington will do, what he can do, I think is worse than what Kamaru Usman can do. I think it's worse, especially with the animosity and stuff like that. It's a lot worse. It's a lot worse. At least Kamaru Usman is the greatest probably one of the greatest welterweights we've ever seen. A pound for pound fighter in the UFC rankings. There's a lot of prestige. If you lose to Kamaru Usman, it's not the worst thing to lose to Kamaru Usman. He's regardless one of the best. You lose to Colby Covington, in the way where I think Jorge Masvidal can lose to Colby Covington, it gets bad. It gets dicey, and I'll say it right now. Like I said, I think Jorge Masvidal gets absolutely dominated. And I think it wouldn't surprise me if he breaks him. It wouldn't surprise me if he breaks him. So, but yeah, man, that's it. That's all for the show. Thank you guys for watching. I see 3 viewers. I appreciate you. Please leave a like. Please tell me what you think. If you think Jorge Masvidal beats Colby Covington, let me know in the comment section. Let me know if you think Colby Covington could potentially lose to Jorge Masvidal. Let me know if you agree with me if Colby Covington beats Jorge Masvidal. Regarding the middleweight division and how that outlook look, if Israel Adesanya beats Rob Whittaker, who in the comment section do you think is next? Do you think Sean Strickland is next? I don't think so, but maybe you do. Do you think Derek Brunson beats Jared Cannonier is next? I don't. I think that's possible, but then how much does that really do pay-per-view wise? That's the question. Also, you're paying $80 in the United States for a pay-per-view. I don't know if you're going to pay $80 to see that rematch again, but who knows? Yeah, let me know what you guys think, so I could kind of feedback from you guys and see where your mindset is. Maybe I'm totally off on this. Maybe a potential Derek Brunson versus Israel Adesanya fight is a potential money getter. So that's all for the show. Appreciate you. Thank you. We'll be doing a recap show for UFC, the Israel Adesanya and Robert Whittaker's card the following day on a Sunday, Super Bowl Sunday. Go Cincinnati Bengals. And lastly, since I'm on here with you guys, there's some viewers on here. I could probably say it myself. I have a little small announcement. So for those that watch this channel and that view what I do and stuff like that, I've always appreciate you guys. I appreciate you guys watching me. I appreciate you guys hanging with me. I appreciate you guys giving me feedback and your thoughts on certain things. I appreciate the love. I appreciate it. You guys have been with me through some ups, some downs, been through some changes, many changes. And I have the pleasure of announcing today that I am officially a part of the MMA News writing team. I'm a part of the MMA News writing scene. And what does that mean? That means I am more, one, I got a new job, right? So congratulations to me, I got a new job. 2, I am now following MMA as a career. And as I do the YouTube thing and I do the videos and stuff like that, but I actually am, getting paid to talk about MMA and getting, being able to, be more engrossed in it and being more on the inside and being able to see MMA news daily and I'm in that world. This is something that I've been wanting to do for a long time, and I worked my way. I've been, working hard, and sometimes you just got to keep working, and certain things happen. And luckily, I've made it happen. So I am now part of the MMA News team. I'm going to try to start next week and officially start writing. So if you guys want to see me on MMA News, I'll post some of the link here and be able to promote that. Well, I don't know what that entails. We've already talked about doing potentially interviews, so we have to see about that. do some more MMA news interviews and stuff like that. And I don't know if I could post it on this channel or if I have to, copy link it and share from MMA news site or how it can work. I don't know. I have to see on these old things. It's going to be a very interesting experience. I've worked with if you know the MMA news team and crew, there's some people there and people that I'm looking forward to talking with and working with. So, yeah, it's gonna be a fun time, and that also means being able to kick back some of the money and be able to put back on what I do here with streaming and stuff like that too. So, um, no, this is cool. This is cool, man. This is cool. Flash says, "Damn, bro, that's awesome. Congrats, you good at this." Yeah, thank you. I appreciate you. So yeah, I leave with some good news on that, and I'll update you guys on what we go from here. And yeah. So this is almost 50 minutes here. I'm gonna close the show out saying thank you. I appreciate you. I love you guys. Until next time, my name is Tyriece Simon. This has been the MMA Renegade. Have a nice day, guys.